Welcome to VBL Consulting. Valerie Bennett-Lewis is a respected leadership coach who serves with a passion to guide executives, new leaders, and entrepreneurs to uncover the tools and skills they need to become the leaders that they were destined to be. I'm Christina Morales, a writer and marketing specialist, and Valerie is my dear friend and mentor. Today, we're going to talk about motivation and creating an inclusive work environment. Both issues are so deep and heavy and needed. So thank you for tackling this discussion today, Valerie.
Yes. You are absolutely correct. We need lots of motivation during these times.
Yes.
For sure.
Absolutely. And so, Valerie, you're a leadership coach, and leadership sets the tone for the entire company. It all starts from the top. Mm-hmm. So it can be good, it can be bad. What are some ways that leaders do this? How do they set the tone, and what do they need to be aware of what they're saying and doing that sets the tone?
Yeah. So setting the tone, it's the culture, right? So, when you go into someone's home and you can just see the decorations, the environment, you can just go, oh, this is a really cool place. It's very mellow, very zen here. Mm-hmm. When you go to a spa, there's like a certain feel. When you go into someone's home, you can tell what's important to them by how they're decorating. When you go into a bank and you experience great customer service, there's a way that you feel, that they make you feel. And so as a leader, the tone at the top is, when you are working for an organization and the employees feel respected and the employees feel like their voice can be heard, and there's freedom to exchange information and ideas because there's no retaliation. It's the tone that the leader sets at the top. And it does trickle down, right? There's a trickle down effect. There's both positive and negative. So you can also go into a work environment and you can tell when there's low morale, or if you see a high attrition, number of employees just leaving. There's something wrong there, right? There's, if you have high turnover on a consistent basis, there's just something that's wrong there. And so the leader is the one that sets the tone. And often folks go, well, I can't stand working with my team. I don't like working with this particular group. But it's not necessarily the team that sets the tone. It's the leader that sets the tone for that team, for the individuals, by setting the expectations, right, around behaviors, around values. And so it's really important for leaders to understand the role that they play in setting that culture to be positive, to be a collaborative work environment. And it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, right? If there's some issues, or if there's some demotivators, then a leader can find out, well, what do I need to do to course correct, right? So that to me is, kind of really the leader being self-aware to know what the tone is, and then having the skills to manage, to make sure that the tone for their organization or for their department is one that is conducive to employees feeling engaged, feeling positive, feeling inspired about being part of that organization.
I love that you say it's like when you go to someone's home and it's what's important to them. I worked at a company, the last company I worked at a year ago, and I left because the leader was not respectful. And it's the same thing. We walked in and it was a gorgeous environment. It was very high end in Danville, gorgeous chandeliers, plush, everything, but it was lipstick on a pig. It
Yeah.
was, you know, we weren't respected, we weren't heard, and she was like a cat and we were the mouse, and we're like, when are we going to get pounced on?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it all starts from the leader, which is so important. And I wish I knew you a year ago, and yeah, you would have had a very challenging client.
Yeah.
So, how can leaders motivate and inspire their employees to dream bigger? And part of it's what you said, respect and being heard. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. I mean, once you tap into the influence that you have to be just an awesome leader, once you tap into just how much you can frame someone else's experience, um, either about the organization or about the mission of the organization. I mean, it's really an awesome responsibility, right? And so, some ways that leaders can inspire their employees to dream bigger: ask for feedback, right? Feedback is so important. I heard someone say that if you never gave your child feedback, how would they know? If you never said to them, I'm proud of what you did, I'm proud
So
of
good, true.
what you accomplished. Or if you only did it the first time that they were born, right? Because there are some leaders that say, well, at the beginning of the year, I tell everybody, they've done a good job and these are our goals, and then that's that. But if they only hear it once a year or one time,
Right.
how motivating is that, right? So I'm not just saying, well, just come up with, it has to be authentic, right? Look for ways to provide positive feedback and do it on consistently, and do it timely. Don't let, 3 weeks go by and you say, oh yeah, I remember you did that, 3 weeks ago. Good job. You kind of lost the moment is gone, right? So be there, find your employees doing good things, doing real things, and provide that feedback. How can you do that? You could pick up the phone and say, hey, really good job. I really appreciate you, in the meeting, you being supportive of this new direction that we're going. I appreciate your support. Or send a quick email to the entire team. We're changing our direction and where we're going. I know this is, trying times for everyone, but if you have any questions, concerns, I'm here. And I just really appreciate everything that you all do to help us continue to move forward. Quick, easy, meaningful feedback. Um, the other thing in terms of feedback is that it means that the leader has an idea of what their employees are doing. So oftentimes when I'm working with clients, I will ask some of my executives, my VP and above, I'll ask them to provide feedback on the behaviors or leadership development plans for their managers, for their directors. That means that they have to know what their goals are, and they have to be looking for opportunities so that they can provide feedback on those new behaviors, right? So you have to be involved and you have to be engaged, or else you're not really going to be providing meaningful feedback. Another thing that you can do is I used to have skip level meetings, meaning you are meeting with individuals. Let's say you have a department and you have a director over that department, and that director has a manager, and then that manager has staff. Well, you can provide skip level meetings on a quarterly basis where you're touching base with everyone so that you can have an idea of what's going on,
That's
how do they feel,
mhm.
and you're scheduling time, you're dedicating time to that meeting, and you're scheduling it, which means it's on your calendar, it's there, and you're committed to this process for getting
Right.
feedback, for giving them an opportunity to be heard. We already talked about short emails. Growth and development opportunities, right? Expose your employees to opportunities that can help them grow into, better, high performing employees.
Mhm.
Delegate, defer to them, make sure that they have an opportunity to learn new things and learn new, be exposed to new ways of doing things, lead teams if that's a desire that they have, being able to lead a particular project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also inclusion. That's another way that a leader can inspire and motivate their employees to dream bigger and to aim higher, is to have an inclusive environment. So we hear a lot about diversity and inclusion, right? Diversity meaning you different backgrounds and different ethnicities, right? But having people with differences that are not included is shortchanging yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So inclusion is an environment where employees can be themselves, team members can have thoughts and ideas that are valued and appreciated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So favoritism is a demotivator. Favoritism is not in part of an inclusive environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being closed and not communicating or not asking for feedback is not part of an inclusive environment. So I think that if a leader focuses on kind of the feedback, asking for it and being open to receiving it, providing those growth and development opportunities, and providing an inclusive environment, those are three things that I think can motivate their employees to dream bigger.
And another thing that we talked about on a past discussion is the importance of mentorship, and how coming alongside each of your employees and investing part of your life and your vision and caring about them is a way to motivate them. And I thought that is such a great idea. And so if you're listening to this video and you haven't heard that discussion, go back, because that was so valuable about mentorship. That's a great way to motivate your employees.
I love how you're connecting these dots. That, you know, it's like, wow, she really is listening.
You're an incredible coach. And so if I'm getting it, I know that your clients will too, because it's all these little dots that are going to make you successful. So
Yeah.
you are giving touch points along the way. Okay, check this. This is your health check. This is what you need to do. And then it's going to bring success for everybody, which, I mean, who doesn't want that? That's so great.
Exactly.
So Valerie, you once said we need to become more aware of our own biases. How can leaders do this to create a more inclusive work environment?
Well, I think the first thing that leaders need to do is they really need to be self-aware. So that they need to evaluate their own biases, right? So there are a number of tests out there and assessments that you can take to really identify what are the things that you have a bias about. So the first thing is, you know, evaluate what they are. Well, I think the first thing is to really acknowledge that you have them, that everyone has biases, whether they're conscious or unconscious, because it's how you were raised, how, you know, your experiences, your thoughts, your values, everything that goes into making you who you are, and influencing why you think the way you think. Your exposure, if you weren't exposed to a particular group, you don't know, you may have an unconscious bias about this group, not because you're necessarily a bad person or, you know, that there's something wrong with you, but it could just be lack of exposure. So I think the first thing is that we all need to realize that we have these biases, and evaluate what your own individual bias is by, you know, test or assessments, and then be able to talk about them. You know, my daughter and I were driving, and we saw these people standing outside outside a store, and they were smoking pot, right? And so I made a comment. And so, you know, I made a comment and I was just like, man, why can't they do that, you know, someplace else or whatever? And so my daughter said, well, why? And I said, well, I just don't think it looks good. And she said, well, why? What's wrong? And I said, okay, well, let me think about that. And she said, well, is it because they're smoking pot? And I said, well, it could be. And she said, well, it's legal, just like cigarettes. And I said, oh, yeah, I forgot, right? I forgot that, pot is legal now, right? So I guess I'm saying
Or
that.
were they really using it for medicinal purposes?
Girl, I don't know. I didn't go that deep, but because we just rode by them like that.
Right.
But what what it did is it made me really kind of take a look at, why do I think the way I think, and the judgments that I'm bringing, that I'm ascribing to it, and where was I coming from? Because I could have made a lot of different assumptions and judgments just by driving by. Like you said, I don't know if it was for medicinal purposes. I don't know if they were in pain at the time, although they looked like they were having fun to me. But but I didn't know. And so I was just kind of bringing my own thoughts and my own experiences and my own biases into this situation. And so I think that, really acknowledging, and I had, my daughter asking me these questions just made me kind of take a step back and say, where is that coming from, right? And oh, I forgot that, yeah, it is legal. So, anyway, and then talking to others, right? So by the two of us having this conversation about kind of, where I was going with it, and why I came to this conclusion, it really helped me to be more aware. So that would be the first thing that I would say is, to be really aware of your own biases when you're thinking about creating an inclusive work environment. Again, we kind of go back to the feedback. Look for other perspectives other than your own, right? Other people have perspectives and different points of view. And when you seek those out, people feel more included. They feel more part of the team, part of the organization. Again, inclusion is where everyone can be themselves, feel valued, feel appreciated. For a leader, get to know the individuals that are on your team. What's important to them? What do they value? What motivates them? What is it that, why do they get up and come to work and do what it is that they do on a daily basis? Ask, when you're looking for feedback, ask for recommendations. Like, what does the team, what do these highly competent and skilled individuals feel can help solve a problem or improve a process, right? And don't just ask for feedback, but make room to have the discussion, right? Don't just say, okay, well, thanks for that feedback, and then move on. Make room to have the discussion. Like, okay, well, I've never thought about that before. This might work in this particular situation. Or if it's not a good or recommendation that's suited for the particular issue that you're discussing, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit more and see how it would help with another problem, or another process. In other words, being supportive and also having that diplomatic communication where folks feel like they're not just kind of shut down. I'll share an example, I had a leader that was new to our team, and in this particular organization that I was in, I think I must have had a new leader like every 2 years. And so just, reacquainting myself with this leader and just, understanding how they work and all, it was just like on every 2-year process. So this one particular leader, she was new to our team, but the leadership team had been together for quite some time. So this leader came in and she said, I want this to be open, honest communication. I want you to be very transparent. And, that's how I want us to function together. Well, she had asked me, during a team meeting, my thoughts about a particular issue related to the leadership team's performance. And in the spirit of being open and honest, I kind of shared with her that I felt that our leadership team, that decisions were made in a silo, that there were some cliques, and that it was not the best representation of us as leaders, and it wasn't really inclusive. And a week later, she gave me some feedback, and she basically asked me to dial down my message regarding the leadership team. And what that did to me was it sent me a mixed message, because I said, well, on the one hand, you wanted us to be open, then I'm open, and then you tell me to dial it back. And I think you and I had talked about shrink to fit, right? This new term. And basically she was saying you need to shrink how you communicate who you are to fit this particular mold. So what I ended up doing was just, I didn't feel comfortable sharing. I didn't feel comfortable being honest. I didn't feel comfortable feeling included, because I felt like my information was being misunderstood. So that made me reluctant to want to come forward. So it's just an example that I have by sending kind of mixed messages. If you do want to have an inclusive environment, you have to understand what it is that means. When you say, I value everyone's feedback and opinion, you have to really value everyone's feedback and opinion, or else you're not going to have this inclusive environment. And so I think that, again, it's always a work in progress. Being an effective leader is an ongoing journey of growth and development. But when you're able to establish this environment, not just of diversity, getting everyone to the table, and then making everyone at the table feel included, there's so much creativity and recommendations and good things that can come out of having that inclusive environment. So I just encourage leaders to really start taking the steps to not just, again, have folks at the table, to not just sit with diversity, but really be inclusive of all the skills and talents that you have around the table.
That's so cool. And it makes me think of, we're leaders, we're in business, and so your customer base is diverse. So why wouldn't you use the diversity of your team to meet your customers where they're at? You're going to reach more people.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And you have a collective that can help you to be more effective in reaching those people.
And it's like our last talk, recruiting the right people, retaining the right people. So when you have the right people on your team, then you can have inclusivity, because you're having quality people with quality ideas.
Exactly.
And so it all ties together.
It all ties together.
Yeah.
The challenge is just taking the time to sit back, come up with your plan, and then having someone like me as a coach, which, to be your accountability partner, say, okay, what are you doing? How are you progressing in this particular area in terms of providing a more inclusive environment, and having that dialogue and helping the leader to continue to move forward on reaching their goals.
And I love how you're using the word bias and not prejudice, because bias could be good or bad, not good or bad. It could be, you could see someone walking in with jeans and a t-shirt and you're thinking, oh, they're not going to have any good ideas or an education, and someone with a polished suit, but they could be lazy as all get out, while the person in jeans and a t-shirt can be the little engine that could and is going to work so hard for you. So when you listen and you put your biases aside, then you're going to see the person for who they are and the talents they have.
Exactly. And take the time to listen, right? To listen to where folks are coming from. So maybe that's the next video we'll do, the difference between hearing and listening.
I love that. I love that. So good. So good. So stay tuned for our next video then, which will be hearing versus listening, because every leader in every workplace is unique. So please go to vblconsult.com to schedule a free consultation with Valerie. You'll learn valuable tools to communicate more effectively, how to create strong working relationships with your employees, and to establish a healthy work environment. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Valerie.